Let me ask you this then.
Hmm.
Does gender wars feed into this?
Yes, it's part of the tactics that Sun Tzu would be proud of in the art of war. You have to destabilize the society from within. And to do that, you have to create confusion in the society. And who do you attack to do that? You attack the women and the children. And that's exactly who they attacked. They attacked the women in the 60s when they introduced feminism. Not the feminism that was what we call what is that? Suffragette feminism.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the suffragette feminism had such a base of support that it was easy to now infiltrate what we call gender feminism, or what I call Amazonian feminism, which is when they brought the CIA spook Gloria Steinem out of college and gave her that mantle as the head of that particular aspect, with Rockefeller putting money behind her. Okay, so once that happened, now she began to go and get the Oprahs and all the rest of the Jenny Craigs or Jenny Jones or whoever it was, and all of them. And now the attack against men, which is part of the what they call the strategy of undermining authority. That was part of the Sun Tzu. What you do is men constitute the primary authority. Women constitute the secondary authority in a society. I know
Mm-hmm.
that that's something you don't talk about right now, but that's the truth. That's how it works. We're the ones who create families. We're the ones who are the creators of and the guardians of relationships. Women are the sentinels of sex. We are the guardians and the creators of relationships. If we want a relationship, we will do anything we can for the woman, and she now feeling secure and she feels that she can be herself and
Mm-hmm.
protected, provided
Mm-hmm.
for. She then surrenders that quote unquote feminine power, and now we become one. Power was nothing that you give to a woman. You give a woman power and you see what she does with it. And this is exactly what it is, that you get the worst of women's power and you put it into a governmental structure and you get feminism. And you get it in such a way that it will accept anything, because the feminine principle is unconditional. The masculine principle is conditional. That's why we can create whole societies and civilizations. Men do that. Those who want to control and destroy a civilization know that they have to use the weakest link and elevate it to the strongest link. And I'm not speaking anything that's derogatory, that is untrue and cannot be proven. You elevate a woman to the man's power, and then you elevate not only her good but her bad side. And the worst of her has to do with her feelings inside of things that cannot be used, where you cannot use feelings in order to deal with decisions. That's why men usually they say, well, men they don't want to get in touch with their feelings. Women would want you to get in touch with their feelings because they're the best manipulators of feelings. That's why
Mm-hmm.
men have to be very careful about what they do, what they react to, and how they respond to certain women, because there are women out there that are very devious. And now that they have people in the government that protect them so that they are not held responsible for their actions. 60%. Do you know that a woman can create the same crime and get 60% less jail time for the same crime that a man would have to spend full time?
Interesting.
It's the truth. And what they've done is they've made the courts hers, because they know that the infrastructure
Especially in family court.
they know that the infrastructural power to a society are the men. So you have to make sure that you create a cloud of distrust between the man and the woman. And for between the entire end of the 60s going into the 70s, but particularly through the 90s, there was an all-out assault against men, which is still happening today. If you can notice in all the movies, in order for you to empower women, it says you have to empower women. Well, if you empower women, you disempower men. Because if you look at all of the examples of what the superheroes are, all the superhero women that they put up there don't have to go through the crucible that they showed that the men did in the superheroes. How do you become a superhero? How does the men? Spider-Man lost his uncle. Thor was kicked out of, what do you call it? You had to go through. The men went through the crucible. The women, automatic. I'm the best. Look at this crap with Hulk. She-Hulk. She's better than he is. She's half his size, but stronger than he is. This is the kind of nonsense.
There's a movie or book called She-Hulk.
No, it's a Marvel character that's a series that, the young
Really?
people are doing. Yeah. She-Hulk. She's the cousin of Bruce Banner. And what happened was she was shot, I think, in the comic books, because I was a Marvelite myself back in the day when it was first coming out.
Mm-hmm.
She was shot, from what I understand, and when she shot, her cousin, who was the Hulk, had to use a transfusion to give her because she was bleeding out. And what happened was he helped her, but they couldn't show that. What had to be shown is that no woman got anything from a man. In anything that you see going on today where there's a superpowered woman, they will never show you the man being the teacher or the one who gave her her skills.
Is that some of the attitude that explained with some women who say, "I don't need a man"?
That's it. And you have and you remember, the society that wants to undermine the culture and your country has to make sure that those who would never in the real world supplant the power of men have to make it look like they can. But meanwhile, the society is eroding, and women who are going after careers, young women, they're usually recruited between the ages of 16 and 21. Now, from 18 years of age to 25, 26, 27, that's the time that a woman is her most fertile. And so that's the time they made sure that she could not be fertile, that she should not be looking for marriage when she's at her most fertile, she's at her most beautiful, she's strong and she can carry children. No, you are going to create your thing. You got to be a boss girl. You got to be a boss bitch, as they call her. You got
Yeah,
to
yeah.
yourself, do your thing. You got to do your thing all this time, your career, not realizing.
Blame the hookup culture, as they call it now.
Well, the hookup culture is a
Not
result,
about. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
is a result of the actual tactic. You have to understand, when you waste most of your life during the times of ancient cultures, when a woman was started her fertility, she was courted, okay, and that courting was protected. Everybody knew that the female hymen was the most precious thing that a woman could give to the future of a culture. Okay, why? Because that was the doorway to the future. But what they did, they had to trivialize sex. I was part, all of us men from the time we're coming up, we did not know that. I had to come into that knowledge to understand the tactics and
Mm-hmm.
how they were using women to disempower men, and how they were using men to completely destroy the power of women. Women are the ones supporting the destruction of women's power today. And Bill Burr did a very good thing where he talked about that the WNBA was complaining and moaning about the fact that men are not doing A, B, and a third and not coming to see the games. He said women are the ones who are supposed to be supporting the WNBA, and they don't show up. But they complain about us not showing up, though they don't show up. And this is the kind of thing that when you undermine a culture, you have to attack the women and make them feel discontent in their position. And they did. They did a very good job. And in Sun Tzu always said that you must always congratulate, even if you don't meet them, congratulate and definitely honor and respect the victory that your enemy has made over you, because he has made you smarter. Okay, he has let you know what it is that you were the weakest in and where you could be vulnerable and where you were vulnerable. You see, telling a woman she needs a career all through school and giving her the bad B, like Cardi B and the rest of these women who have elevated the whore to a whole new level. They don't realize that the word career, if you go back into the etymology of the word, it means combat. So when you go after a career, you're going into combat. It's a psychological, political, economic combat. So when you put a woman in that arena, she's no longer feminine. She has to man up.
And she has to compete.
That's it. And so she's competing in a man's world, acting like a man, and now her empathy is gone. So now, because she is making her own money, she doesn't have to listen to a man or depend on a man, because that's the whole thing. You can't depend on a man. Men are no good. Men are evil. Men are
I heard
dogs.
that quite a bit too. And
There
I'm
you
saying,
go.
where's that coming from?
So you have this overall vilification of men and this newfound so-called freedom that our young sisters are being coerced into believing that they have. So now, because they're independent and they're bad bees, they hang out in bars and they go out and they just have their sexual fun. By the time they're saying, and it was my son who's been sending me information more and more about the world that he's in, because he's in entertainment and he's out there
Hmm.
in the world right now. So he's
Hmm.
sending all the information that I need to know. And the young girls, by the time they're 18 and 19, some of them have 50 sexual suitors, 60,
Wow.
120. So most of them
So
don't
that's
realize.
where this whole thing of body count now comes in.
Right, that's where it
What's
comes
the
in.
body
So,
count? I
right,
says, where did that come from? You know what I'm saying?
it comes from them thinking that they can act like men, because that's a man's thing. It's not a woman's thing. It's a man's thing. Women don't want men who don't know how to make love or how to satisfy them. They can either satisfy them sexually and they'll pay attention, or they'll satisfy them monetarily and they'll pay attention. Today's women have become so superficial that money, okay, and sex, they control the sex, but you can control them through sex as well. If you are endowed enough and you can rock their world, they'll listen to you. In fact, they'll leave husbands, boyfriends, and tiptoe to act like you and go meet somebody that they can satisfy themselves with and have a beta male at home, making sure that they can eat every day or have a home and a place for them to stay. They'll go back to that, be satisfied. He's not getting any sex, but she'll be out getting sex with somebody else. That's how the game is being played today. And so all of this, most people say, well, damn, look at what our society has become. It's become this way because it was planned to be this way. And I'll tell you when it started as well. It really got teeth and it really got hoofs at the Beijing Women's Conference in 1996. In the
Hmm.
Beijing Women's Conference in 1996, a mandate was created by the women where they would destroy all references to gender. In other words, and it says it. Matter of fact, I did a whole webinar on this in the 90s around that, a whole lecture on that. It said we must get rid of words like father, mother, uncle, aunt, cousin, nephew,
These are
niece.
all family units.
That's right. These are all the different ways that we maintained a cultural, biological, communal structure. They wanted to get rid of that. What's happening today? The very thing that they set up in that conference in 1996. You can't call them he or she anymore. You got to call them some kind of ridiculous term that does not exist anywhere in the language. And I'm supposed to be forced to make sure that I must change my perception of reality to fit yours. And then they're going to legislate that I speak that way. This is exactly how you destroy a country from within. You create the kind of confusion that they're doing today so that you don't even know what to call your neighbor that might set them off. So much so that you
I
have to,
mean, they would have problems with you calling your mother mother or your father father.
right? You know what a mother is? A person who has the capacity to carry a child or some crazy thing like that. There's no more mother, because the connotation is that it is a woman with a womb or a human being with a womb that can become pregnant and give birth. Now they're calling them birthing. They're calling women birthing units. See, when
Really?
you yes, when you neuter a person, you dehumanize them. They become drones in the very society that you want to enslave. You take away the humanity. You take away the very identity that a woman is represented to be. The fact that she has a womb means that she is a mother. She has a potential mother. You take that away and say that a man can become pregnant. Now you're creating confusion because the next generation, who is learning from that generation that's twisted, is going to carry on that twisted mentality. And that's exactly what they're doing to
So
our
what
children.
would they call a father then, if that's the case, Phil?
A human with the capacity to create sperm.
That's heavy. That's
That's
heavy.
the reality today, my good brother. That's the reality today.
So who, if when somebody gives birth, how then do they address them later when they start growing up? They call them a it or
Yeah,
they or
yeah.
mother
There's
father.
it.
Hmm.
Well, there's an it.
Really?
Listen, instead of there being two genders, there's now counting. I think there's 246 genders now.
No, hold up. Wait a minute. You mean we're not talking about mother father, right?
We're not talking about mother, father. We're not talking about male, female. We're talking about gender. They say gender and sex are not the same. Gender is subjective, it's the mentality. Your sex, which makes you a male or female, is what you're born. When you come out of your mother, they tell you that at 3 years of age, you can tell who and what you are at 3 years of age. This is the sickness. You see, you have to understand this is not us. This is the motivation of, this is the tactic. This is the insidious tactic of those who are undermining our culture, and they're attacking our Constitution was the one that these Europeans have been using and twisting. The deep state got hold of it and created two other constitutions, the municipal constitution and the territorial constitution. The territorial constitution was run out of England and the Queen. The municipal constitution is run through Washington, D.C., and the Vatican. The de jure constitution is us, the autochthonists. We gave these Europeans that constitution. Everything that they've written about, the so-called the Declaration of Independence, the Declaration of Independence was what took over and subsumed a Declaration of Independence, which we're the ones, the first 12 black colonies, 13 black colonies, we were the ones who were breaking away from the black nobility in England. All of what you see happening in North America today, and I'm talking about from Canada all the way down, all of that was based upon England, the Great Britain, and the Vatican, working through the Vatican, and the Pope. The Pope is the one who said after the Civil War that none of the history, the true history of North America or the Americas, will ever be taught in schools. And then what they did with the next strategic move, they shipped all of the manufacturing jobs overseas and paid those people 10 times less than they would you. So now you're out of a job. Now you're going to school like women today and studying women's studies and studying all kinds of stuff that don't make a damn bit of difference in society, and then complain that you don't get paid the same as men. They expect that somebody who's an architect, an engineer, and what he makes is the same that somebody who is talking about, women's studies and sexual issues and human relations and all that. They're supposed to be making the same. It doesn't work that way. But because we say that there is a pay gap in women, there's no pay gap in women. Women are choosing the lesser paying, careers, and they're leaving sooner to have children. If they do have children, they leave sooner. and can't come back because everything is consistently growing while they're home taking care of their children. They have to come play catch up. So again, remember, and I'm saying this, family, ain't nobody put no blame out there. I'm telling you how the war is being prosecuted against your mind, your culture, your family, everything that we hold dear. The war is being used by weaponizing women and their emotions, by weaponizing men's apathy today, because we don't want to take care of a woman. Our nature is to create a family. They're taking
Definitely.
that out of our
Definitely.
people. Yeah, they're taking that out of our people today. Young men, they don't want the responsibility because look, why would you want to get into a contract where the woman benefits by breaking it?
Yeah, because it says majority of divorces are done by women.
80% of all divorces are instigated by women. 90% if the woman is educated.
Are you serious?
That's serious. That's statistics.
No,
They
I
can.
know how you operate. I know you're a seven. You
Yeah,
don't say anything out your mouth that you don't do the research. I know this. But you
yes.
know some people gonna be upset with you with this interview.
Yeah,
Okay?
of course. I love the upset people because I want them to come to me and prove it. Prove, like for instance, that NASA is not a fraud. Prove that the Earth is actually a globe. Please tell me that, and I will sit and listen with you, and we can converse like people who are using intellect for a
Yeah,
purpose and to,
yeah.
to reach a common ground of understanding and understanding. No, they're throwing stones.